Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Get ready to find your free will from your roots in the stars.
Hi, Sue Rose Minahan. Today is Cosmic Collaboration. It's the Aquarius version, and our title is Developing Perspectives. It's what's happening, and today is actually the 13th of February. Tomorrow is that infamous Valentine's. So how are we developing those perspectives? We have a few calendars, and one that we're really going to involve is the Chinese Lunar New Year. Every year, annually, 2 new moons after the solstice. And that's the reason, because January happens to be their last sign. So it would be the Aquarius New Moon brings in the new year, and this year it's the ox. Well, there's other calendars. The Mayan calendar has one too. It's very regular in its system, and it has very intriguing thought. So collectively, we will decipher some of these energies and figure it out. So now it's time for cosmic collaboration.
Investigating the deeper questions of this month's archetype and integrating spirit and matter for unified wholeness, this is your Cosmic Collaboration Panel.
I'm Sue Rose Minahan, host of Talk Cosmos, an evolutionary astrologer and consultant, plus a certified color energy coach. I explore creative expression as an artist, a musician, and write abundantly, stories to poetry. I love investigating mythology's language, philosophizing eternity, and I'm a perpetual student of life, seeing oneness of body, spirit of people, animals, and nature.
I'm Shannon Hayes, a certified evolutionary astrologer and consultant, including Mayan astrology. I'm a stargazer, and I work with animal spirit cards. I own a hair salon, and I'm a nature lover, animal activist, and photographer.
And I'm Amanda Pierce, a soul-centered astrologer, astrological consultant, and empowerment-based meditation teacher. I have a BA in psychology, I'm a wellness enthusiast with a passion for healthy eating, and I enjoy creating new realities and shifting old paradigms.
And like the Sufi poet Rumi says, you are the entire ocean in a drop.
Well, hot diggity, there we are, and here we are. And beginning every cosmic collaboration, we each independently come up with a thought, which always surprises me when I announce it, because I think, oh, what is my thought? One idea of our subject that we want to share, just a little nutshell for us to consider. And I think what mine is how these calendars integrate together a real system of connection. I'm just astounded by their interconnections of emphasis, that the more you study these esoteric ideas, that they connect. So, Amanda?
Well, what do I want to share tonight? I've been thinking about this question, like, what is it that is really popping out at me? And I think after having looked more deeply into the year of the metal ox, I think that there's a strong association with Saturn. And so I'm really interested in seeing how this Saturn-Uranus square influences the year of the ox, or how the year of the ox influences the Saturn-Uranus square. So I'm just, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen this year, but there are some quite a lot of overlap between the astrological energies and the Chinese New Year and what's expected.
That's exciting. And Shannon?
Well, I wanted to touch base a little bit about, since we are talking about different perspectives and different calendars, I wanted to just touch base a little bit about the Mayan year, the 9 year that's coming up, and maybe just bring in for a second or two the year with the Mayan calendar we're still in, which is 8 Noh. So how that kind of the 8 Noh kind of rolls into the 9 Eek, and it all kind of blends a lot about what we're talking about, like with Manda and the Saturn square Uranus, and also all the different changes that have been going on.
Beautiful. It's so true. It's exciting because we have these different systems. We have the Gregorian that we've adapted as a large society group with 365 days, January 1st, leap year. And then there's other whole calendars. You know, the Chinese New Year is actually, I shouldn't say actually, but the fact is a large population embraces it, including not just China, but Korea, Vietnam. Yes, I mean, it's
South Korea.
Yes,
Japan,
very
Japan,
prevalent.
Yeah.
Japan too.
It does now. It hadn't for a
Yeah.
while because of past history, but now it
Right,
does.
but now
Yes.
it does. Yeah.
Mhm. So the ox, and it's very interesting. I happen to be an ox. I'm not a metal ox, but this year seems to be. It's all related to that the legend. Now, originally, I was just reading in that legend. It was where Buddha was dying, and all the animals were rushing to bid farewell. And then legend changed it, and they said that the Jade Emperor, Jade I think means great fortune, wanted his palace guards, which is so interesting. It kind of goes along with year lord bears of the Mayan, Shannon, that
Right.
we've studied a bit. But anyway, and so it made it into a competition. So who was going to reach this spot first? Well, the ox is a huge animal and strong, and part of it was going across the river, so it managed. But rat, being a tiny animal, said, "Can I ride on your back?" And then at the very last moment, of course, leaps off and becomes one. The one, like number one, NWON, won it. Meaning that ox is a friend, ox is honest, ox is diligent, ox is hardworking. There's comes up with that Saturn emphasis that you were talking about, Shannon.
It's like slow and steady energy. That's the ox.
Yeah.
And it was just the quick thinking and quick movement of the rat that was able to kind of get into that first place.
And they're still friends in the astrology of Chinese medicine. And all three of us are friends too in Chinese astrology. It's interesting. So it's been exciting. Yeah. So ox this year, there were some current event things about this year. The interesting, because society keeps changing, and the fact that it's become such a market because of the Chinese population beginning to become number one in apparel, clothing, that it's so much commercialism that there's fear that the traditions, the symbolism of togetherness, because that's a lot to do with this energy which has so much to do with our Aquarian, right? I mean, the fact that if we look at I won't keep talking forever, but I will bring up that the New Year, New Moon on the 11th is significant because that introduces it. So for people, it's on the 11th, and we'll look at our charts at 2:05 or 2:06 East Coast time is one way to, on the 11th, because if you're in China, it'd be on the 12th, but here it's the 11th. So with all that Aquarius, that's together. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I know it's interesting. It's like all that Aquarius and like the air energy and all the we should be together, but since we're in the time of COVID, it's like we're so not together, which is also like the other kind of interesting part of that whole thing is like, it's all about like, isolating, staying 6 feet away, and, double masks,
I know, right?
right?
Yeah. And it's so interesting in researching this year of the metal ox. It was hard not to come across the previous year, which is the year of the metal rat, and how much it was even expected that the rat year was going to be chaotic and really fast paced. It's a yang energy, so they were expecting it to be a really difficult year. And metal, interestingly, is associated with the lungs in Chinese medicine. And so there's a need to be careful about respiratory disease. So we saw that last year, and we're going to see that this year, where we're in more of a healing phase. And kind of like the ox energy, it's yin, it's just a lot gentler. It's a lot more steadfast. It's not like a big bounce back from the previous year. It's more like rebuilding. Ox kind of has that building energy, and so we're rebuilding ourselves because we got slammed around last year big time.
Right.
So we gotta it's slow and steady. It's keep your head down and keep moving forward. It's not about creating new initiatives this year. It's about continuing to follow through on what was started last year.
Yeah.
That actually supports the ox because it says it doesn't look for the limelight. It actually gets recognition through hard work. So it does very
absolutely
well correspond with that whole factor. And we are going through that shift of, I don't know, it's leadership when you think of Capricorn with the earth of leadership. Capricorn is definitely mastery and authority versus this shift into communication that we're working towards.
Right.
So there's that.
I know.
And the Mayan. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was saying with the 9 Eek year, which is what we're going into. We're getting ready to go into. It's the 2021 year Lord. And it's about change. It's all about communication. It's about change that comes really quickly. That can be like a hurricane, right? Yeah, it can be divinely, it could cosmic energy, kind of energy, right? But it's also like it can also be cutting too. It can be the kind of energy that like is you don't expect it. And it could be really kind of straightforward, So that should be kind of an interesting year starting. It's already interesting, with the whole like the second impeachment and everything. I mean, come on, right? It's like all you have to do is kind of look at what's going on right now, and you can see like all these energies sort of playing out big time, right? Kind of interesting.
Well, and looking at the beginning of the year, January, we had the storming of the Capitol, which was actually still part of the rat year. It's that chaotic yang energy. And so we're moving out of that. The impeachment is actually technically today, that trial is over. So we are moving
interesting.
Out of that into the ox, into the gentler, more, it's all about like discipline and diligence and hard work, very Saturn energies.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is so true, because as we talk is how these energies are kind of rechanneled with a new filter, we could say, to add on. And there is a blending, like rivers, streams going into a bigger river, I would guess. I know in Chinese philosophy of the elements that in one direction they're supportive and the other direction they're destructive. Mm-hmm. And then as far as years go, the last one was 2009. And the one ahead of us is going to be, I think, 2033. FYI. So we could relate back.
Sorry, what were those years?
They will be ox years. 2009 was an ox year, and then 2033 will be an ox year.
Interestingly, I looked back to 1961 because that was the last year that we had a metal ox. And I looked at the different, like, what were the energies of this? What was happening? And that was the year that JFK was inaugurated as the president. We put the first humans into space. The Peace Corps was established. A
lot of firsts.
There were a lot of firsts, which is actually not something that, in researching the ox year, that it didn't seem to correlate so much, but maybe it does. I'm really not the expert on it.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Amanda, because being an ox, it's very interesting. These 12 years in the cycle, it happens to be, it corresponds with Jupiter also is a 12-year cycle. And the fact is that Jupiter is, so every year Jupiter's been in a certain sign, and you go back 12 years. Well, this particular year, if you go back, it's always been for the metal ox. It's always been an ox, different metals. What I'm getting at, Jupiter's been in Aquarius, and Aquarius is I have Jupiter in Aquarius, and when you talk about humans in space, that's like outer space is like elevation is with Uranus. It's out of here. It's there.
Yeah.
And Peace Corps too. It's a matter of elevating the needs for the community and really wanting to network and elevate for the better care. So it's fascinating. I was trying to think how going back they would relate. So in other words, every year there's an ox. It's also Jupiter in Aquarius. So it might be like, so like Amanda, you're a snake as far as they go. And what is your Jupiter in Gemini?
Gemini.
So every 12 years, when you have a Jupiter return, it'll be the year of the snake, I think.
Oh, interesting.
And which we'll have to check. And now, Shannon, you're a rooster, because all three of us are pals, as far as Chinese. And so when you have yours is in, Jupiter's in Virgo.
Right.
So every year when you get your Jupiter return, it's a year of the rooster. But we'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
Which means that those years would then augment, because Jupiter and Neptune, it seems they're so expansive. I mean, Jupiter is expansion, and Neptune hasn't any boundaries.
No boundaries, right?
Yeah. So, but Jupiter, it seems like therefore it expands whatever it's touching. So it could be that the years, Shannon, you're born are years of health and fitness and some beauty products and all of that. I mean, all of the purity, so many. Yeah.
Beauty products.
Well, it's a beautiful sign. And for Gemini, you must have a lot of communication and diversity and maybe education and community, our neighborhoods. I don't know.
Potentially. Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
So
that's
so this year, what could we look at? We aren't Elon Musk is always going into space. He says we'll go
and now Jeff Bezos is wanting to put more of his time towards that now that he's stepping down as the Amazon CEO. So it'll be really interesting to see how that transpires. I also think that there's going to be, we're moving from the year of the rat where we started the vaccination process, and we're going to be continuing that process in the year of the ox. And that's a big community type effort. So I think that's going to be a big focus here.
Yeah. Well, you know what else? I mean, a global level, like the whole what's going on in Myanmar right now is massive, right? I mean,
Mm.
peaceful protests, and they're protesting, for
For Russia.
yeah. I mean,
Justice,
it's
civil
amazing. And
justice.
oh my God, they've been protesting for like days now, I think. Anyway, it's
Weeks.
huge. Or
Yeah.
weeks, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
It's
and then there's AI, talking
Oh
about
yeah.
outer space stuff. And some people have even, well, there's a couple of thoughts. One is thought, well, because this new year, with all that Iranian and Mercury in it, and the Mercury is retrograde, that it's trining the North Node in Gemini. I mean, which is 60 degrees, which is a compatible, for those folks wondering, compatibly supportive energy. That communication, and particularly thinking of the divine breath that we're talking about, Shannon, of going forward in this as of the 19th, that we could be getting the possibility wonders. Could we be getting information from outer space or from spirit, or if nothing else, our inner self, that, as we were saying, all roads lead in,
Yep.
is going out,
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yep.
or
Because a lot
see
of them,
aliens.
yeah. Well, I mean, it is about wind. The 90 is about the wind. It is about the breath of life. It's about communication and words. Where how important words are, and especially like because of like what's happening. Also, is like, have you guys noticed like all the censorship, the
Well,
discussions around censorship? So, I think that's another going to be huge topic this year is what is and what is okay to
yeah.
censor. Instagram censored Robert F. Kennedy because of his speaking out against vaccines. I mean, there's some
Oh,
really interesting things I think that are going to be coming up and maybe
yeah.
finishing up this year.
And
and then, go
I
ahead.
think that's something that's going to continue, that conversation around censorship now that we've moved into the um this era of air energy, with the grand mutation. So because it's
Yes.
kind of a shadow side of Aquarius, like
Mm-hmm.
Well, and particularly, yes, and particularly
Yeah.
because not Jupiter, Pluto is still in Capricorn.
yeah.
But the fact that, right, what you're saying, we're changing from that material grounded Capricorn energy, having left, of Saturn, which is ethos, right? It has so much to do with karma, right judgment, wrong judgment of Capricorn. So now we're
Mm-hmm.
looking back, and right now, especially, all three of these Mercury retrogrades will be in air completely. So that means a lot of rethinking of and recommunicating.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like boundaries and structures and our old perceptions of what our society looks like. I mean, our society is changing so rapidly, and so are so many around the world, right? I mean, and I think that's part of like just an issue of human beings trying to work it out, trying to figure out how to proceed with life. And it's like we always end up having to come up against these old walls in order for breakthroughs to really happen. And I think as a species, we're kind of we're kind of like at this point where, you know it's not like a pinnacle of self-realization or something, but it's like see and read more about humans expanding their consciousness, right? And how like over the years it's like more and more and more. And at the same time we've got this like crazy kind of polarization going on, right? So I think it's like I find it really fascinating like where human beings are at right now, how we're going to deal with all this. And I think that like, I mean, maybe I'm on a rant here, but like viruses and things like that tend to help people. People either come together or they drift apart. But it's
Mm.
always like a breaking point for societies when they enter into things like this. So I think that like that part of like the changes that are happening now, like even though they're kind of chaotic and we don't really know how to handle it or process it, it's exciting because of the very thing we've been talking about where we can't control it. We don't really know. So there's something exciting about like what's about to happen.
Possibilities and opportunity. Now we only
Yeah.
have a few, yes, and I hope this chart's available just to show people at the end and drawing us back between what Amanda and Shannon and I are all talking about. Partly is this whole energy also, which we were talking about for the year, is going to be Saturn. I mean, look at all these planets in Aquarius and Saturn square Uranus, which is a continuing orb of friction, wanting for resolution during a time when we have Venus, the attraction, desire planet, including love, that is conjunct this expansive Jupiter. So we're really so many energies happening.
Yep.
So I think that's really true. Focused on the innovation. We're still in
Yeah.
the sixth.
We're still in planning stages, you know.
Yeah,
we're still trying to figure things out, you know. I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting. I don't think it's going to be so easy, but I think it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. Here, I'll stop sharing and we'll go back. Okay, we will be back. This is Cosmic Collaboration, the Aquarius edition, February 13, with Amanda Pierce, Shannon Hayes, and myself, Sue Rose Minahan. We'll be right back and continue our perspectives developing.
Break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the Yang period of Aquarius, ruled modernly by Uranus and Saturn in traditional astrology by the ancients. By leaving a cycle based on governing structures through both man-made and universal laws, Aquarius breaks established patterns, permitting the energy of freedom, just as its ruling planet Uranus spins on its side and orbits backwards. As a fixed air sign represented by the water bearer pouring the spirit of cosmic energy, Aquarius seeks to find like-minded, intuitively aligned souls to connect in social groups for the elevation and improvement of all.
Talk Cosmos brings you Leading Edge.
This is Mark Worgan, your astral medium from Las Vegas, Nevada, and you're listening to Talk Cosmos on Alternative Talk, 1150 AM. Where we discuss the meaningfulness of our roots in the stars.
Going against the grain has never been this much fun. Alternative Talk 1150.
Hi, we're back again. Aquarius Cosmic Collaboration. And I will say that we're going to be sad to part with Shannon after this event. I know. It's been wonderful. A year and a half all getting together as I moved east to Hawaii and you moved west, or maybe it was vice versa, right?
I moved east and you moved west, I think.
I think you're right.
Something like that.
I know. So we're hoping against hope that Sundays will work out for Shannon, because next time it'll be on a Sunday at 1:00, like our announcement said, and we'll have Susie Kerr Wright from Tennessee to join us. But there's always a fourth spot. So Shannon, we're going to be just wishing and hoping. So we'll work that one out. Well, we're talking about new perspectives and developing perspectives, because perspectives with the South Node in Sagittarius, we have our belief systems, and it's that new information and adapting, and they're all mutable, right? Both Sag and Gemini are mutable signs, that develops a new concept, a new way of seeing things, maybe going through a different window or going to a different mountain or looking at the valley or through our east-west, right? Yeah. Well, we were talking about three calendars off the bat. We're talking about the Gregorian on January 1st, just acknowledging that. And then the Chinese New Year yesterday, which, well, it wasn't quite yesterday, 2 days ago, on the 11th in the western part of the world, the Aquarius New Moon, for the introduction of the ox. So we are in the beginning of the ox. We're plodding over to get across the river with a rat in our back. That's an interesting thought, right? The rat could be, rat could be
Not
on
our
our back.
monkey on the back. It's the rat on the back.
Yeah,
And they're still friends, even though, yes,
exactly.
the
Our
rat
friend the
jumped
rat
off.
on the back.
Little chaotic
Oops.
guy. Yeah. Yeah. So, but then meanwhile, we also have ahead of us the Mayan calendar, which shifts interestingly in a progressive way backwards also. And it'll be on the 19th of February, where we're still in this line of thought to inspired divine breath of in Hawaii here. Those three words mean breath, divinity, and life. So that's also connected with it, all these ancient thoughts.
Huh.
So one thought about kind of tying in with the first beginning that I said about the Chinese New Year is that with all the commercial world that we live in, and this is also transferring from that earth energy that we, with the grand conjunction and the great conjunction, grand mutation, December 21st with Jupiter and Saturn, leaving Earth to air for the 200 years that we're doing, that they're hoping that in the Asian community that the groups will continue to educate, which is so much our North Node, to keep the traditions alive of togetherness that seems to be so, togetherness for food, to, making dumplings together. They've transferred that a bit because they do it online. In other words, the three of us would get together and make our dumplings. And the way they fold it has meaning and, significance besides just the selling red because it's part of the tradition.
Well, you mentioned before there's that Aquarius connection with the ox, and that in Aquarius is about the community. And as I was researching this, I also found that metal has some overlap with the Aquarius because it connects with teamwork and with interest in the community. So that's very Aquarius. So it's the metal ox. It's also the year of the white metal ox. And white connects with Aquarius as well because it's about, there's the potential to draw support from all different sources. So kind of like like you would draw support from a community. And so asking for help in this year is it's a good strategy for getting what you need. And so I just like that how much Aquarius energy is really coming in with this year and how much potential there is to connect and to enhance the community.
That's a really very powerful, to realize asking for help. Because I think, especially since we have Uranus in Taurus, which also, rules the Aquarius, along with Saturn, and coming from this sense of a bit of aloofness of this last year and the Mayan way of can get detached because there's so much past ancestry that we're dealing to get through, whereas the next year we'll have less of that energy, we'll be able to get forward, meaning that going back to the idea of Taurus, it can be self-reliant. So that could be a real struggle to remember that it is a community and we need to not just join in, but say, how can I be of help, I suppose?
Yeah. Well,
or how
and I wonder if you're hitting really on this part of how the Uranus-Saturn square can show up. Because Uranus is in Taurus, so it's wanting to shake you out of the types of Taurian behaviors, such as like being like too reliant on yourself, being like an island of one. And is that going to shake people up a bit? And then squaring Saturn, which is in Aquarius, which is about the community, how are we going to see that potentially connect? Is there going to be, I feel like Uranus is going to keep Saturn on its toes basically all year. It's like you can't fall into the same old way of doing the Aquarian energy, and Saturn is asking you to step up and into something where you're standing more in your authority. And so doing that in an Aquarian way, but not doing it in a way that maybe is even comfortable to you. You know, it's like you just really got to be very present to this energy, because Uranus is going to really want to just keep you on your toes and keep the flow of energy moving. It's like nothing stagnant.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe
well, now that's
for-
go ahead.
No. Lead on, Shannon. Yeah.
No, that's okay. No, what I was thinking about when you were saying that, Amanda, is like, I mean, look at where we're all at right now, right? Everything's online, correct? You know, and it's like, I think what's interesting is like people have had to be really creative because it's like the way everything, you know, the government has everything like so kind of isolated and stuff, right? I mean, schools aren't always all back together. People are having classes online. Families are like separated, so they're figuring out different ways of coming, you know, together online. And I think that's, you know, that's kind of here to stay. You know, I think more and more,
Definitely.
you know, because it's going to be hard. Right? It's going to be harder for people now because, you know, I think a lot of people are so accustomed to being at home that sometimes they don't even mind because they can do stuff, you know, through Zoom, through all kinds of stuff, right? And the same thing with traveling. I mean, it's going to take a while to get traveling back like it was.
Well, if we're thinking of what you've both said, adding a thought to this is that with Taurus, since it is self-reliant and we're needing to, it's survival, you know, how am I surviving? And the whole structure has had to shift, understandably, because of COVID, meaning that our old systems are really disrupted. So yes.
Well, yeah, we're going to have to recreate, right? So what's our new system going to look like? What's
innovation,
our new society going to look like? Yeah, a lot of innovations. Yeah.
But
there's a need to be really conscientious about it and really conscious about how we're moving forward into it, because it's not necessarily going to be easy. I mean,
no.
It's hard work.
Online,
that's where the ox. You got to work.
Well, yeah, it's kind of groundbreaking. We're in groundbreaking territory, right? So, you know, this is all like, you know, moving the dirt around, trying to figure out how we're going to rebuild, you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
Where's the foundation? Do we have foundation stones, or are we going to work around a tree?
Well, exactly. I mean, okay, I'm going to be real brief. I promise I won't hang on this. But I mean, did you guys even watch any of that impeachment thing?
Oh,
it's
yes,
like how
indeed.
Not shocking it was. I mean, it was, but at the same time, it's like, it's so not shocking because it's like half those people, you know, you expect. And they admitted up front about it. They're not going to vote to convict him. But what message does that send? You know, it's like, I mean, it's just kind of, the whole thing is unbelievable. It's unbelievable because I knew exactly how it was going to play out, and it did. But at the same time, it kind of like doesn't really give you like, you know, it's like, it's still no excuse, you know?
I think very true. I think it really, because I've had this discussion here in my own close quarters because everybody is still, no, I won't say everybody, but the news, we're all driven to find out what's our world that we're living in. You know, it's broader, our culture,
question. Yeah.
Our culture. I mean, we're South Node, Sag, and North Node, Gemini. And so this communication. So what I'm getting at is, in the long run, losing that Aquarian ability, and looking down and around, what I see is this whole process of communication that is going to be uncontrolled. It's uncontrolled, meaning there isn't any real, it's going to be chaotic. I mean, chaotic in a sense that it's not controlled. It's like, who's dictating the standards of communication? And I think back, I don't know how long we'd have to go back, but anytime there's a huge transition, leaving one whole system like we did from Earth, and now we're going into this networking communication and now equality, equality the best we can,
Right.
trying to improve is really chaotic. I think back maybe around from BC to Common Era, when people were trying to figure out their religious beliefs. I guess it was very chaotic. People didn't all agree. And
yeah, I know. And like, you look at what's happening right now, it's the same thing. Well, and I mean, and that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, I mean, a lot of new things are going to be taking place. You know, it's like, I don't know. I mean, just look at it politically, you know, Trump and Lindsey Graham, you know, yakking it up before like the whole thing, the whole impeachment terminated. It's like, I mean, you can almost like see things kind of playing out, you know, it's like, so, you know, like, okay, so we have two parties. You wait and see how fast we end up with a third one after like this whole impeachment thing, right?
It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time coming. It's not. It's really a no-brainer. Life evolves. If we look at, excuse me, I just want to say, this is something that really is very, very important that you're saying. If we look back just at the Republican Party, it was with Lincoln as the Republic, and this is not without judgment, just
it was
factual.
One party.
Well,
One
whatever,
party.
but okay, fine. I'm just trying to say that it was named because the United States is a republic.
Right.
And in other words, the connotation of that party changed throughout time. And so what I am saying is that everything evolves and changes. And I think earthbound thinking gets so that it's very static. You see a table, it's supposed to be a table, you know, but houses fall apart if they're not taken care of. A table will fall apart. Everything will finally break down. So what I'm getting at is that the other side of thought here is elitism. Uranus, Aquarius has that shadow side of elitism. So I think that is something where people have their little hobnob communities of thought, and it isn't so equal, equal.
Right. Yeah. The potential thought control, that is a shadow side of Aquarius. Like, there's one right way to think about things, and there's one right way to believe. And you know, as astrologers, we're up against that all the time out in society. And so it's something that I'm always kind of watching. Like, we just got to make sure that we're conscious about allowing people to have their thoughts and their beliefs, even if we don't agree with it, because what's the opposite end of that? We could be the one
censorship.
Yeah, exactly. So
words are going to be so important, you know, like more than ever. It's like, I've already been reading like lots of articles about that, about like the use of words and how to use words, like with these you know, upcoming changing years that we're in. It's really kind of fascinating, because like that's what like 9 in Mayan astrology is all about. You know, it's like it's about words. Ich is words, you know.
Communication.
Communication and how you use your words. Words are important because you can use them like a hurricane coming out of your mouth, or you can use them, you know, to be understanding and empathetic and
bring people together in an
they're tools.
Way.
They're tools. I mean, the words are literally tools, and it's vital. And that's the beauty of this coordination of energies, looking at not just our sauce, but maybe some other culture has a better spice, and that'll change the whole flavor. I remember learning that cumin was so important when I lived down in Mexico. It's going to taste Spanish if you put cumin in it. So, I'm just saying here, looking at the Mayan astrology has validity of real consciousness, just like we're sharing the astrology, like we're talking about.
And it's right on point with the North Node in Gemini and South Node in Sag. It's very, very much in our consciousness, and then with Neptune squaring those nodes as well. It's like it's bringing it really into our awareness, and like we're trying to find some what are the correct boundaries really for words and communication, and it's been breaking down a little bit with that Neptune, breaking down those boundaries, but with the intent to rebuild in a better way.
And maybe I was going to say new framework, like movies, and we know music and movies are always communication.
Well,
yes.
Well, and even how, one addresses an audience, that's like really huge. The whole thing, I'm going to use him as an example again, but it's like, Orange Man, right? And the words that he uses. The whole thing about impeachment was about, did he actually say this? Did he actually incite this? I know it's kind of redundant, and I hate using it, but it's like, when I think about the Mayan astrology of like what's coming up with words, and I think about the whole Aquarian age and the new moon in Aquarius and the impeachment trial and what it really is about, it's all about like everything we've been talking about, and what you were just speaking about, Amanda, about words and how they're going to be used and who's going to be censored. And I think it's really going to be a year around that. Well, and it will be interesting to see, coming from one who words were all over the place to one who's more thoughtful.
No boundaries.
Words,
no
right?
boundaries.
No boundaries.
Yeah.
And Twitter speak, to someone like Biden, who's very much, he's so much softer,
Well, this all
it's very
boils
much going from the year of the rat to the year of the ox, and Biden has a Taurus moon, which
right,
fits in very well with that. Yes.
Bottom line, too, we have to remember this whole idea that words all build up philosophy, and they build up belief structure. And so, yes, we have our South Node, but the point is that how we use these words is not, because I have to say, I hope that will get to be, I think that's the tricky part about the law here, is they're trying to say, did he say this? Did he say that? But the fact is, what was he really saying? What was the message? And that is like belief system. And so what is our belief system? And we have to, we're going towards a year, next year, 2022, that'll be a USA year of a Pluto return. And we're in the wake. We are in the treadmill wake of this river current forming and forging path. And I think that if we can remember that it's not just one story, just like these movies that have been coming out, it's not just one story. They're like a collage of energy reminding us, because Mercury is retrograde right now too in this chart. So it's going to be like a whole filtering and recycling of the years past. Back, not just yesterday's agenda, but like years back of energy. And how are we going to take these perspectives that have been off base with their shadows and restructure and reform? So I think you're both right about this censorship that we need to acknowledge. I know if it's police, it's violence. If someone would, would somebody pick somebody up and put them in jail, like a house arrest or whatever, because they were actually doing violence or going to do violence? So is that still our criteria? And what is our criteria? If we're going to work together, hopefully we can start being more tolerant, like we're talking about.
Can I provide maybe a little bit of hope for 2022?
Yes.
Because we have talked a lot about the Pluto return coming, which sounds pretty daunting. But as I was looking into this year of the ox, what also came up was the following year, which is the year of the tiger. And this is supposed to be a very positive year. And there's a prediction that this is kind of going to be the new roaring 20s, which correlates with this idea that after a pandemic, there is a renaissance period. And so we're potentially in that rebuilding stage, like of getting smacked around. We got to like get back on our feet this year. And then the following year, things could be just explode favorably for everybody.
And
so
that gives reason for, thank you, that gives reason for this renovation that we're going through of dialogue and everything. And just to remind people that next week will be the Moonbeam team, and do subscribe. We're on YouTube, and comment. We love to hear back from you. And today I'm with Shannon Hayes, unfortunately for the last time, but Shannon's been with all of us, and we still have hope because there'll be room. We're bringing in Susie Kerr, right? And we have, of course, Amanda and myself, Amanda Pierce. So do you have some, I know, Shannon, do you have some thoughts about how Eek, the year of Eek, now what would be the year after this? Amanda was talking about
the year Lord. Yeah, that's what I was just looking at. Is 10 Kek. And 10 is like, it's the high number, it's an even number. It also the Kek it's about nature, and it's about leadership. Yeah. Kek is
it's a very wonderful sign. That's right. It's very
right.
People are asked to be the leader because they are sort of a knowingness of them, but they aren't overt. And so it could be then through this hard work that we're encountering of communicating and getting rid of our shadows, right? And all of this, that there will be leaders that will turn to, that it will be acknowledged, not just acknowledged, who cares, but that'll be of help.
I just love when you see the correlations between the different systems of energy. It's just so amazing to watch how they kind of work together, and it's very exciting. It's reassuring that we're all seeing kind of the same trajectory.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
similar, if not the same.
It leads into this Mayan. It correlates that Aquarian social reset air, which was 600 to 800 years ago, with the Mayan also and this whole systematic.
They have their I mean, it's kind of more nature community orientated type of astrology, actually. I mean, because it was developed for the group and how everyone in your group, your family, your community, how you're part in that group, which is what I really love about the astrology, I mean, a Kek, 10 Kek is also about community. So it's kind of more communities working together, finding spiritual communities that support you and help you grow. So that's kind of inspiring too about 2022.
It is. And now we have a few moments. I thank you so much. And
thank you.
I had a thought here, remembering that if we're talking about Gemini, of course, that's Mercury, which keeps going through all its changes once we get through this retrograde. So that gives a lot of changing energy, plus Venus that's ruling Uranus and Taurus. So there's all kinds of, if we don't like it one day, well, maybe if we wait a week, see it a little different.
Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of nice. You can find the correlations and things,
Yeah, it is. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to us and being supportive and subscribing. And we're going to keep evolving this year. Believe me, we're going to keep our conversations going. We'll find a way to connect with Shannon for sure.
Yep. Yeah.
So, yeah.
This year's going to keep us on our toes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Shannon. And
Thanks
this is
both.
Thanks, Amanda.
Lots of love to our audience.
Yep.
Thank you for listening to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Rose Minahan and guests unveil astrology's ancient archetypes that continually build the collective experiences in our unconsciousness. Be sure to tune in next Saturday at 6 p.m. to continue finding your roots in the stars.
The views expressed on this